This is my first video. Well, first video that I've done in a while since being on a very new journey for me. And for those that have kind of followed along on my new blog, Finding My Practice, you can read back my past posts. There's not too many, and check in with what's going on with me. I'm on this new journey of trying to live a more fulfilling life, I guess is the best way to describe it. Without going into my whole past, for many years I've followed a career that was wonderful, but just didn't fulfill me and sort of was counter to what a lot of my personal desires and passions and things. And so eventually my body and mind just sort of had enough. And unfortunately, I now deal with a lot of stress and anxiety, but I'm now trying to live with my new normal, as it were. And in that, figuring out what my new definition of success is, what does fulfill me and bring me joy, what do I want my life to look like, what do I want to cultivate more of, what do I want to remove from my life. So it's been quite a journey that I sort of really started thinking about these things kind of like last summer, so about 6 months ago. And one of the things that I started doing was I did my yoga teacher training. Yoga has been something that I've been always sort of loved, but did it sort of to fit it in between my obsession with working out and dieting and things. But I realize now that yoga, and it's not just the physical practice, but the philosophy and the way of living it really speaks to me, and it's something I believe in and is something that I want to cultivate more in my life. And the point of this video is sort of as a recap, but as I was listening to a very interesting podcast today as I was running errands, and this amazing yoga therapist and psychologist and yoga teacher, Forbes, was featured, and they started talking about this idea of momentum and momentum being a bad thing. I hate using the words good and bad. It seems so simplified, but that momentum, the idea was, that momentum may be a negative thing. And I was sort of like, how does that work? Because my whole life I've learned that momentum, or I've been taught momentum is a good thing. Momentum in staying on track with a project, or learning a new discipline, or working out and having certain physical goals or nutritional goals. And I always thought it was a good thing. But as I would listen to the podcast, and in fact, there was an article that Bo wrote more in detail on this subject that I read, and it really resonated with me, because what she's talking about is this idea of momentum, and she's using it in relation a lot to yoga. But oftentimes momentum, we use it to sort of hide in a way, or to get through an uncomfortable spot, whether that's physically. So in a yoga pose, she talks about transitioning from downward dog into a lunge. And a lot of times, if you're familiar with yoga, you kind of try to rush that, because either we lack core strength, or we're tight in our hip flexors. And so you try to get through that transition where in my yoga teacher training, and fortunately through my amazing yoga teachers, they've taught me that sort of the beauty and the growth is in that transition. And this is exactly what Bo was speaking about is, slowing down that transition between these poses. But this idea that oftentimes that momentum, we use that as an excuse to get from point A to point B. And what I think what she's saying is the growth, my quinoa's cooked, the growth and strength that really occurs in that challenging bit, that transition bit. And no, we shouldn't. We're missing out on a lot of positive stuff when we move through that, and taking that one step further beyond a physical yoga practice or something physical. But for me, it was very interesting because this morning I was kind of doing my meditation, and then I sit, and every morning I get up early, and this is very recent that I'm doing this, but I get up, I do some meditation, write out my gratitudes, and I kind of pick something that's on my mind. And one of the things that's been on my mind since I graduated from my yoga teacher training 2 days ago is this sort of excitement, anxiousness, driving urge to move on to find the next thing. So what do I do next? I have this certification now. What do I do with that? Do I start a business? Do I look for more courses to take? Do I start teaching more? Do I take private students? All this stuff, and my brain's going a mile a minute, which is my pattern. It's sort of what happened when I left the military, and I started looking for the next big thing, and I started a business in nutrition and fitness, and ended up burning myself out because I had that momentum. I had that driving urge to get through this uncomfortable phase of my life, from going from a long career, going through some mental health issues, and wanting to get out of that discomfort. And I talk about it often, people that know me, the discomfort of having when somebody asks me, what do you do? What are you doing now? It's the first question that people ask you when they meet you. And I had no answer. For so many years, it was, I'm an officer in the Canadian Forces. But for the first time in many years, because before that I was a student in university, so I always had an answer, I felt like, I don't have anything. And I felt so uncomfortable with that. And so I was looking for the next thing to do. And I realized that I was using that momentum to try to get through and push through that discomfort. And see, with this yoga journey, so I did the certification. It was an incredible journey. And right as soon as I'm finished, like clockwork, it's like, okay, I've done that. What's next? Come up with a business plan, maybe, what is my business model? Are there any other courses I need to take? And it goes on and on. And I caught myself doing that this morning, and I was like, whoa, it was kind of fitting that I listened to the podcast today about momentum, because that's exactly what I was doing. I was sort of now caught in this discomfort of, what do I do next? I need to find the next big thing. And what I see now is, yes, that is my pattern, and it's not a bad thing to want to have a purpose, but I need to step back. And what I did is I did step back and realize, okay, where is this coming from? Well, this this, and I know this from many years of therapy now, is this is coming from my need for external validation, my need to have that traditional, clearly defined role that I can say, yes, I now do this. This validates Jessica Goodman now. She is check, she's good to go. She's now accepted in everybody else's eyes. Everybody is comfortable with the fact that she has this job and this role. And like, why? What the fuck for? I mean, this is the stuff that I'm still going through, and I'm still in it. But I'm kind of like, why the hell do I need to have some sort of job, clearly defined career job? And it's something I need to work on is why do I feel like I need that? Because it's my own self putting that on me. Nobody else is doing that to me. Nobody else is telling me you need to do this now and that now and all the rest of it. So trying to, I was going to say be comfortable in that discomfort, but trying to be comfortable in that is a little difficult, but noticing that, being aware of that, and stepping back and kind of being like, okay, why is that coming up? And what I realized, it's a crow flying by with a big piece of bread in its mouth. What I realized is there is no rush. That the thing for me to do now that resonates with me is to take pause in this discomfort, to notice it, but to take pause and notice my pattern of wanting to jump to the next thing. And my intention for myself is to take some time for self-reflection and to review the last 7 months that I've been doing yoga teacher training and really let those teachings simmer for a while. And I think that if we say momentum is bad, which I don't necessarily think is the case, I think what is more of an accurate reflection is that this idea of momentum, but this idea of excitement and inspiration is good. And the fact that I'm right now feeling very excited and sort of scared and unsure about where to take my yoga journey next, I think that's awesome. But it doesn't mean that I need to go build this empire for whomever. I think what's important for me in my growth is to stay in the discomfort and take my time and reflect on what I've learned and perhaps pull pieces that did give me there were challenges and maybe work on those things. And yes, continue to learn. So there is some forward movement, but not imposing this this sort of restrictive idea that I need to now do something that fits into a box that I can tell somebody else now when somebody asks me, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm now working on this certification or whatever. I hope this makes sense. I don't know if it does. It does for me. I guess that's what matters. But so I'm going to include a link to the article because I know it is yoga focused, but she does also talk about other areas like, in relationships, using momentum in relationships or career paths or whatever. It's not just in a physical pose, but in other areas of our life where we can get very comfortable with using momentum to sort of skirt around these phases and issues that are causing discomfort, because that's where the growth and the strength happens. That's where the strength is built. That's where the learning happens. So that's my thoughts for today. Have a cup of tea. Have an amazing day, and perhaps reflect and see if there's something in your life that you're maybe using that forward momentum, almost putting the blinders up and charging forward and using this idea of, don't worry, I've got it because I've got momentum and I've got this goal to work towards. Well, maybe sit back and kind of evaluate, well, why, where is this coming from, and what is it that I'm really trying to achieve, and why am I trying to achieve that? That's all I have. Namaste.